How's it everyone, Grant here. Welcome back to another camera comparison video. And today I've got the all-new HTC U12 Plus up against arguably the king of still photos, the Google Pixel 2 XL. And this right now is the most requested camera comparison video on the channel. And so I hope you enjoy it. I hope you find it useful. And as usual, I'll show you a bunch of photos and videos in some good light and low light. And right now, these are some pretty optimal lighting conditions. So both of these front-facing cameras have every opportunity to look good right now. So let me know in the comments which one you think looks better. And also let me know in the comments which camera you prefer, which perform better for you. Maybe one perform better for photos, one perform better in low light. You like one for video, a different one for audio, or maybe there's a clear-cut winner for you. Whatever it may be, leave your preference in the comments, and I'm always interested to hear what you have to say. And with that being said, let's get on with the rest of the photos and video. Hey there everyone, so here's a quick clip from the rear-facing cameras at 1080p 30 frames per second. And just as I look up at the sky here, in the viewfinder the Pixel 2 XL looks a lot more saturated in colors, while the U12 Plus looks a lot more natural. That just could be the displays. We'll see when I offload it and what that looks like there, but here's some quick still footage. And then I'll pan over here to the cell tower and we can test the zoom. So first on the U12 Plus, 2x optical zoom there. And then I can zoom in all the way. And that's a 4x digital zoom there. And it looks pretty clear. And it also has sonic zoom, so as I zoomed in closer, my voice probably got softer. And I'll pan over to the right. Still pretty stable as I pan. And I'll zoom it back out. And we'll test the zoom on the Pixel 2 XL here. So this only has a 5x, so it's 5x digital. No optical zoom here. And that also is pretty steady and pretty clear. I'll pan over to the right so you can see how steady that is as you pan over at full zoom. And I'll zoom back out. And we'll test autofocus here on the post first with the U12 Plus. So there you go. And it refocused very fast, back on the post. So focus speed seems to be pretty good here on the U12 Plus. Focus is pretty untouched immediately, and we'll try the Pixel 2 XL. There you go. And Pixel 2 XL, also pretty good focus speeds here. Also both have that really nice shallow depth of field, blurred out background. We'll try to test out some stabilization as I walk down the stairs. The Pixel generally has the best stabilization amongst all smartphones right now. But at 1080p and 30 frames per second, I'm assuming the U12 is looking pretty good here too. And I'll take one last pan around the park. And there's your 1080p 30 frames per second clip there. So here's some 60 frames per second video being shot at 1080p resolution. I just wanted to shoot it with some high moving or fast moving objects to give you a feel for the frame rates here at 60 frames per second. So I'm just going to leave it standing here and just let me know what you think about the footage. And I can test stabilization out here, so I'll just go ahead and walk with these two phones handheld, so it gives you an idea of what the stabilization is going to look like here at 60 frames per second, should you want to move around and shoot at this frame rate. Hey everyone, so here's the same scene being shot at 4K at 30 frames per second. And so there is a 6-minute time limit here on the U12 Plus. I don't see any time limit recording restrictions on the Pixel 2 XL. And from looking at the viewfinders that are framing, the Pixel 2 XL is much more zoomed in. There's a much wider field of view at 4K here on the U12 Plus. And here's where colors can kind of get distorted, so pay attention to the blues in the skies. I've seen 4K recordings before. Once I offload it, the skies tend to distort the color and become unnatural, but so far in the viewfinder they're both looking like they did at 1080p. So pretty consistent coloring, at least to the viewfinder right now. We'll go ahead and take a look at the cell tower again. We'll try our zoom. So we do not have optical zoom here at 4K. Well, actually we do, there we go, on the U12 Plus. And then we'll go ahead and zoom all the way in. So same 4x digital zoom there with sonic zoom audio. And it's looking pretty steady, even at 4K, 30 frames per second here on the zoom. Zoom back out. Test the zoom here on the Pixel 2 XL. So that's the max zoom there. It's actually looking very clear. Not too grainy here in 4K, and also pretty steady. We'll zoom it back out. And we'll do autofocus tests at 4K, 30 frames per second with the U12 Plus. And refocus speed really quick still. And one more time. And Pixel 2 XL. So again, both of these are focusing pretty quickly and refocusing pretty quickly. And then we'll go ahead and do a stabilization test at 4K 30 frames per second. So this is where the Pixel usually shines. Great stabilization EIS at 4K. So we'll see how the U12 Plus holds up here. And again, one last pan around the park there. And here's some 60 frames per second footage being shot at 4K on the HTC U12 Plus. The Pixel 2 XL does not have 60 frames per second at 4K, so I just thought I'd show you some footage anyway from at least the U12 Plus. And I wanted to show you some fast moving objects just so you can see the high frame rates. So let me know what you think about this footage here. And I can go ahead and test stabilization again here at 4K 60 frames per second on the U12 Plus, just to give you an idea again of what the stabilization is going to look like here if you choose to shoot at this frame rate in 4K. Hey everyone, so here's a front-facing camera sample being shot at 1080p 30 frames per second on both the U12 Plus and Pixel 2 XL. And so this is some afternoon light, so it's not the ideal lighting, but I did want to show you how this might look like in an outdoor setting. And I'll go ahead and pan around so you can kind of see as the sun moves around how the camera adjusts the contrast and exposure and everything in the changing light. So now the sun is right behind me, and it looks like the U12 is blowing out the sky more than the Pixel 2 XL is. And I'll continue panning around here. You can kind of see how the lighting and exposure and contrast is changing there. And so I can go ahead and do a bit of a stabilization test, so I can kind of see how these both stabilize in the front-facing cameras here if I'm just walking and talking like this. So hopefully this gives you an idea of the front-facing camera performance in some pretty bright daylight. Yeah everyone, so here's some quick low light footage from the U12 Plus and Google Pixel 2 XL here. And so I'll quickly go ahead and try to test the zoom here in low light. So 2x telephoto lens from the U12 Plus, that's a 2x zoom there. You can go in full zoom, 4x digital zoom there. A little bit grainy as you would expect in low light, at least in the viewfinder here. And you can pull it back. And we can test the zoom on the Pixel 2 XL. And we'll zoom in all the way. So I believe that's a 5x zoom there on the Pixel 2 XL, which looks even more grainy actually. And I'll just pull that back out. And then I can go ahead and test some stabilization. So I'll just start walking and we'll see how this stabilizes in low light here at 1080p. Usually in low light you start to see some jitteriness in stabilization, so hopefully this gives a good idea of what you can expect as far as low light stabilization here from both cameras at 1080p. So here's some 60 frames per second video at 1080p again and some low light. So again, I just want to put some fast motion video in front of you so you can kind of see the high frame rates. And we can test the stabilization again in some low light here, 1080p 60 frames per second. So you can kind of see how the video stabilizes in some low light, especially if I want to shoot at high frame rates at night like this and just walk around handheld. And this is the same scene being shot at 4K 30 frames per second from both cameras here. So I'll hold it steady here for just a little bit so you can get a feel for what the picture looks like. And then we can quickly test the zoom here. So 2x zoom there on the U12 Plus, and then go full zoom, 4x digital, right there, and zoom back out. And we'll test the zoom on the Pixel 2 XL, and then full zoom there. Should be 5x digital zoom, I believe, and that's looking pretty grainy here, as you would expect in low light. We'll zoom back out. And we'll test the stabilization at 4K here, so I'll just do some walking. So again, hopefully that gives you a better idea of how these cameras perform here in low light at 4K. So this time it's some 60 frames per second 4K video being shot from the U12 Plus, since again the Pixel 2 XL does not do 4K at 60 frames per second. But I did want to show you some low light coming out of the U12 Plus at 60 frames per second in 4K. Now we test the stabilization out here again. So again, I'll just do some walking just to show you what 4K 60 frames per second stabilization looks like if you want to walk around shooting it at that frame rate in some low light here. And here's some quick footage from the front-facing cameras in some low light here. And as you'd expect, it's a bit grainy, but the U12 Plus looks a little bit brighter, at least in the viewfinder here. And I'll pan around just so you can kind of see how it changes into some of this light. And we'll test some stabilization. So I'll just walk and talk here. And hopefully this gives you a good idea of what you can expect as far as stabilization in some low light here. Hey everyone, so I just want to end this video with a bit of an indoor low light test, but I hope you enjoyed those photos and videos. I hope you found it useful in some way. And like I said before, drop a comment below, let me know what you thought was better for photos, which was better for videos, low light, whatever. Maybe you just clearly like one better than the other. Let me know in the comments. Let's continue our discussion down there. And as always, thanks for watching.